it's a good time to start thinking of it like that.
So,
Because you're giving yourself 30 years to become that.
and until that time,
What was the time you decided you wanted to be a writer?
I 31 is when I said, okay, I'm taking that plunge.
Yeah, you have done sort of enough. You've put in your time. You have done the hard
experimented.
work.
I think experimentation is also there till 27, 28 to kind of discover strengths, weaknesses. You worked in organizations for 3, 4 years. You know what you get along with, what you don't get along with, what are your strengths, interpersonally. So you kind of say, okay, this is where I'll toss my hat.
What triggered that for you?
I was jobless.
You're jobless.
Number one. Number two, I needed actually right from I think the time I was born, I wanted to do things differently, and so I just got pushed into engineering stuff and all, family pressures way back in the late 80s. Oh, you're getting into DC. How can you reject that? Yeah. So you flow with the tide and you somehow struggle to get through DC because you never wanted to do engineering, and then you're pushed into a kind of a family business where my dad had invested, and then I said like chuck it.
It's like 6 years of selling cars. You said chuck it. Yeah. After several years of doing HR, you said that's not what I want to do. I want to be CK Pralad. The tricky thing here is that nobody told us when we were 22 or 23 or 24 that you can be a management guru, or you can be a travel writer, or you can be a big, you can write multiple books. Yeah. There were no precedents, you know,
Of people who had done this.
of people who had done this. Yeah. This is, you don't have that excuse. You don't have to wait till 27 or 28 or 30 because you don't know how to do it. Nobody has asked you to think about that. You have no precedence. You don't have that excuse. Yeah. So while I'm saying that 27, 28 is a good time to start thinking about how do I take it to the next level. I mean, you don't have to wait that long. Okay, having said that, okay. So
I think
offsite.
so more than that, it's also saying, what am I passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I'm a cerebral guy. I'm not a emotionally connected HR person. Like I can't do the counseling, but I can build theories. So I can look at the architecture of an organization, the structure, those kind of things, and I say that is something. And being an HR guy, you have access to these psychometric tools, so you get feedback from them saying this is your strength, this is your weakness.
So then what happened? So what happened after this offsite?
Before this, I was managing a couple of Yahoo groups. One was job related around knowledge management. So I said, okay, if there's a KME group I can start, I'll start a HRE group. And the one bad decision I did was somewhere around 2003, 2004, the HRE group was expanding a lot, and I said, this is where it'll end. No more memberships. And it got stalled at 1200 members then. And Yahoo doesn't allow you to change that setting after a point of time. So on these e-groups and on some XLI, alumni e-groups, there were a lot of discussions happening around HR, around knowledge management, around virtual communities. And I said, okay, I'm kind of posting all this stuff. What happens? And e-groups had just then been taken over by Yahoo. So earlier these groups were based on something called egroups.com, which Yahoo took over and done. No, it was a third-party provider. It became Yahoo Groups. I said, what if Yahoo shuts it down? I need a place where I can access whatever I've written. Those emails, some of them were fundamentally very long emails. I started cut pasting onto a blog spot because that's, and blogs had just kind of started, and I said, "Ye kya hota hai?"
And how long did it take you before you became a celebrity blogger?
That time there were not too many bloggers around. So 2004 Indie Blog Awards, I was third most popular Indian blog. So I could put that sticker up saying Indie Blog of the Year. So 2 years.
How long? You were always a journalist, yeah?
Well, 2002 onwards.
2002 onwards. How long did it take you before people started saying, "Wow, this is Ajay"?
I don't know if they still say that. I don't know because people know the kind of stuff I'm doing. I think call it the
You know, when I first heard of Ajay,
yeah.
when he was featured on the LinkedIn blog.
Okay.
So I was among the first 20,000 people to get onto LinkedIn. And I said, यहाँ पे कोई Indian ही नहीं है. So Naina, I were part of a virtual community floated by this guy called Vincent Wright, who was talking about.
I still don't know what he's doing with that, with so many of these groups that he's created. I stopped following it.
So, and the interesting thing was LinkedIn's marketing director, uh, Konstantin Gueric, was on the group also.
When was that? When did you get featured on the LinkedIn blog?
That was the year before last.
Okay, so that's
so
very
LinkedIn
recent.
blog itself was much this, but you know, using LinkedIn or using the Yahoo groups was where I got in touch with Scott Allen. Scott was again writing a book on called The Virtual Handshake on networking, and then we got onto Rise. So there were Rise mixes. So I somehow realized so when blogging started. So blogging, as I said, was purely from a personal knowledge management perspective. That these are my emails. I am archiving them here, and somebody in Canada, two headhunters in Canada had a recruiting blog, and they said, "Oh, somebody in India is talking about HR." You know, Technorati, backlinks, and I'm like, wow. So you can figure out who's linking to your blog, and then I got connected with this whole community of recruiters who had started exploring social media for recruiting in US and Canada, and I kind of lost touch with the Indian blogging community, and that's when I think things started to develop a lot more. And then so the thing is, you brand yourself, but you cannot brand yourself in isolation. You've got to get connected to people like you, people who share your passion.
Have you seen that also, Ajay?
Yeah, it's see the thing is.
First, answer the question I asked you first, which is when did it actually hit that point where you said that yes, this is working?
I think suddenly people said like that little wow factor is not a big wow factor. That small wow factor came when I became an author.
Mm-hmm.
So like going back to what we had commented very initially is writing a book is like wow. Yeah. Okay, you are an author now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And at a certain level, irrespective of how the book does or not, you suddenly get branded. Mm-hmm. Okay, you are an author. You can say that on your card.
Yep.
Right, I'm an author, and I think that suddenly like changes the worldview about you.
So it took 5 years.
Yeah, because actually before that I wasn't even attempting to, because I was working with Financial Express. The social media hadn't happened. Even when I was running the newspaper for many years, blogs hadn't really come in at that time. So it's only when blogs started coming in and people and Facebook came much later. LinkedIn happened much later for me. So all these things. So the real branding thing really was more in the traditional media, but but being on social media, being on blogs, being active, and being also actively participating in offline communities. That's when over the last 2 years things have happened.
Okay, so I'll ask both of you this question. First, why don't you talk about what Gautam just said, that you really start to build a personal brand when you're not trying to do it in isolation, but you're trying to connect to other people who are talking about similar things. Did you try doing that? Have you also seen that?
Yeah, for me, being a writer, whether I was doing technology writing and more so when I'm doing travel writing, for me, everybody is a valuable connect. No matter where you are, you could be sitting in Iceland.